This is Courage Rises with Susan Jeffries, episode 17 with Isabel Banerjee. Do you ever wish you had more courage to affect change in your life? Or wish you could harness the courage you have to move forward faster towards your goals? I believe that exhibiting courage or even being told you are courageous can be transformational. Courage is not a trait that everyone is born with, but can most certainly be learned through practice and shifting your mindset. My hope with these interviews is that you will recognize yourself in some of these stories of everyday courage, tell yourself you are also courageous, and begin to move the needle on your own courage continuum. Let's get started. Welcome, everybody, to Courage Rises with Susan Jeffries. I am really excited to introduce you to a new friend of mine today. Her name is Isabel Banerjee, and she's going to tell you maybe towards the end. She's got a kind of a special event coming up that I know you're going to want to be involved with. So stay tuned for that information. But welcome, Isabel. I'm so glad to have you on my show.
Thank you so very much, Susan. This is an honor, and I'm excited to discover where we're going to take this.
Good. Me too. Me too. Why don't you introduce yourselves to the audience?
All right. I am a speaker, an author, a child at heart. I am a next business strategist, and I am a transformation catalyst. I founded the Lift as You Climb movement, and I continue to discover every day who I am and who I want to become next.
Oh, that's awesome. Tell us a little bit about Lift as You Climb.
So, Lift as You Climb has been a mantra of mine for decades, and it's very, very connected to a courage experience in my life. That expression, lift as you climb, I mean, I didn't create it, but it felt right for me that as I evolved as a woman, I saw time and time again the examples of how if you helped someone else and you reciprocated by helping another person and they helped another, that there was this just incredible reaction where everybody, as they say, all the boats were rising with the tide. And that inspired me recently after I published a book about 2 years ago. And that's one of the themes in the book. The book is called Who Am I Now? Feminine Wisdom, Unmasked and Uncensored. And one of the themes of Lift as You Climb kept coming up in conversation with particularly women, because it's a book about the journey, as I say, through womanhood wonderland. And women wanted to talk about that. What does that mean? And how do I use that in my life? And it resonated with 20-year-olds and it resonated with 80-year-olds. So recently I was inspired to take that out into a bigger impact, I hope, by creating a movement, Lift as You Climb movement, and inviting others to live their legacy and to empower others to create theirs.
Yeah, that's great. And as you know, that's kind of what I'm about too, is, inspiring others to move the needle on their courage continuum, as I call it.
Yeah.
So thanks for telling us a little bit about that. So where do you live right now, and how old are you? And
I am 66 years young.
yay.
I live in Tucson, Arizona now. I moved from Canada to Arizona in 2011, relocated from Phoenix to Tucson about 2.5 years ago. And so I'm 100% Canadian and 100% American and very desiring of being a citizen of the world when we can travel again.
Yes, yes. Well, your background is a little bit like mine in that I'm Canadian and American as well. Although we came to the States a fair few years before you did. We moved here when I was 10, so that was quite a while ago.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what courage means to you.
Oh, interesting. When you say the word, I get a physical reaction. I get kind of butterflies in my tummy. It's part fear and it's part exhilaration. I think it's like the courage to me looks like what I would look like on a roller coaster, like, whoa! It's particularly a courage by choice. And I love your courage continuum because I know for sure that courage is not a static thing.
Yes, very
You
much
know,
so. Mm.
it ebbs and flows and it grows at different times, and we certainly have to nurture it in different ways. So, but that there's certainly a feeling of a little bit of fear, but also a lot of motivation, excitement attached to the word. And I suppose that's heading to the fact that I think that it's a choice. It's not always an easy choice, but
Mhm.
that's kind of where my experience with courage, the story that I was going to share with you, is rooted in that evolution for me.
Yes, I fully agree. It's a choice. It's a conscious choice that you make to move beyond your comfort zone, to do the right thing instead of doing nothing, those kinds of things. I agree. Is it important to you to be seen as courageous by your friends and family?
Absolutely, it is. Uh, when I reached that stage in my life of accepting and embracing the fact that I was appointed by the universe to be a role model and a leadership example, whether I liked it or not. But that was the role that I was plunked into in my life. Then I realized that if I didn't show up courageously, or at least my best attempt at what that was for me at the time,
Right.
then I was doing a disservice to everybody that was watching me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
my children, my grandchildren, my friends, my business associates, my staff, everybody.
Right. You can certainly be courageous most of the time and not all of the time, but you can't be not courageous all of the time, or you will not be a leader. So, when we first met each other, you said that you have a story of courage in your life, and I know that my listeners, my watchers, would love to hear it.
Mm. Well, thank you for asking about it. The top of mind, and I think like I'm sure most of your audience, there's going to be repeated times and periods in our lives when there are moments of choice to be courageous, or at least face the fear and do it anyway.
Yes. Hmm.
uh, and I want to go back to where the real origins of it were for me, and the origins of Lift as You Climb. I was uh, I was in, to use the terms, a victim of domestic unrest in my family, and as a child at 16, when I graduated from high school, I took my chance to skedaddle out of there. And I like to say, I didn't run away from home, but I walked pretty damn fast. And I didn't know at the time when I made that decision, which required a lot of courage back then,
Oh,
because
for sure.
I didn't know where I was going to really, and I only had $75. I had just graduated from high school, but the fear of staying where I was was less than the fear of not knowing where was going to end up.
Mm.
And I discovered a couple of months later that I was pregnant.
Oh, to top it off. Yeah.
Surprise! Yes, and you would think I thought I was a pretty smart girl. I did well academically in school, but obviously I was pretty stupid in the biology area. But in that point, it was, oh my goddess. And then I thought, but I can't go back.
Right.
I cannot go back and hear him say, I told you so.
Uh-huh.
So that was the pivotal moment, the moment of decision for me to pull up my little girl panties at the time and figure out how I was going to provide for me, who wasn't really, I was very naive. I grew up on a farm. There was
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the world I had no flipping idea about, and how I was going to grow up while I was raising a child. And so that sort of set off a chain reaction on the courage continuum.
Oh yeah, it would, wouldn't it?
Yeah, of having the courage to ask for work, showing up and applying for jobs that I had no business applying for,
Mm-hmm.
not correcting people when they thought I was several years older than they thought, because I had a maturity about me. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, I certainly had a very strong underlying current of motivation.
Yes.
And to quickly come to terms with the fact, you know, I'm actually pretty well prepared for this part of my life, because I've been working since I was 12, earning money from other people, but also working alongside my parents, who
Sure.
were fairly entrepreneurial as farmers, and not realizing at the time that I was acquiring business and life skills
Life's, yes.
beyond my years, right? And so that work ethic of growing up on a farm and learning customer service and cash management and teamwork and employee relationship management stood me very well. And then because I was a good student and I read a lot, I really could sort of fill in a lot of blanks for quickly in jobs, which, one of my very first jobs was working in the silver department. Now, you're a Canadian, so you probably will recognize the name of Henry Burks and Sons,
Oh my gosh. The little
right?
blue Burks box. Oh yes.
Absolutely. So Henry, for those in the audience who don't know, Henry Burks and Sons was the Tiffany's of Canada.
Exactly right.
And I got hired to be the junior assistant in the sales department, where the place settings, which were sterling silver and silver plate at that time, had, anywhere from 12 to 18 pieces. And, of course, the irony of that was that I grew up on a farm where the place setting was a knife and a fork and a spoon if you needed it. And so to quickly, to have the courage to go, okay, I don't know, but if you explain this to me, I will learn it really, really fast, and to pull
Exactly.
that off.
Yes.
And to know that, it was up to me to make enough money, to manage that money, to ask for help to get subsidized childcare so that I could work, to make the decision to live in less than glamorous housing, but go to work every day, as opposed to off out the window of my basement apartment, where there were other choices that people had made about their life, where they were on a lawn chair with a case of beer. And
Yes.
Canadians will call that a 2-4, while they they didn't aspire to try to get out
Mm-hmm.
of their fear and to rise with some courage. And I'm not saying I'm better than them or not, but for me, the decision was, I didn't like feeling like a victim.
Yeah.
That wasn't what I wanted to be. And yet the word survivor didn't feel all that fabulous to me either. I'm like, you know what? Given a choice, I'd like to thrive.
Yeah.
Let me just see.
Well, and that's a courageous, that's even a courageous concept for someone who is in their late teens, pregnant, out of the home for the first time. I mean,
Yeah,
just the audacity of wanting to thrive would have been very courageous decision to make.
thank you.
Hmm.
Thank you. I don't know at that age what put that choice in my mind, but I do remember that there was a very clear point that I thought, no, why would I settle for survivor if I can, hustle up and be a thriver and
Mm-hmm.
provide a better life? And, part of that was, um, one of the impetus for that or catalyst for that was I used to sit in bed at night after my son was asleep and go through the Sears catalogs.
Oh my gosh, I remember that.
Yeah, that was the origin of vision boarding for me. And I would go through the catalog and I would earmark the pages of the things that I would buy for us one day to make our life more comfortable and more colorful. And,
Mm-hmm.
maybe that was part of what inspired me the next day to get up and get out there again and trudge through snowbanks in Ottawa, because I grew up in Ottawa with
Mm-hmm.
a wiggling kid in a snowsuit to get on a bus to go to the daycare, then to walk to work and repeat
Yeah.
the cycle day after day. But, it had a happy ending.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mhm.
So where did you go? Where did you go from there? I mean, I believe what I know about you. You've had um, many adventures as Isabel.
Yes. Hence the story, the title of the book, Who Am I Now?
Mm.
Which is not unique to me. I know that that for most women, if you stop and take a look back, you're gonna say, "Oh yeah, I was that role,
Yes.
that responsibility, that identity, that throughout life." So my journey from that teenage girl, that decision to thrive, was to work as hard as I could in each job to continually ask for more responsibility and take on what I wasn't ready yet, but to really embrace the opportunity to learn. And then the entrepreneurs that I worked for would go, well, okay, if she can do it, let's give her more. And as life has a way of doing it, that unbeknownst to me was preparing me for the opportunity to start my own business in 1989. And the joke at the time was I started a chemical distribution business. I didn't have any chemistry background, and of course I didn't have any formal business education. I was grade 11 high school graduate, but I went on to build, because I didn't know any better, an industrial global business, 8 figures a year in sales. And the farm girl was now sitting, instead of the farm table, it was boardroom tables. And I was traveling around the world. And it was just the most remarkable adventure in growth. And yes, it took a lot of courage some days, because I was, I bootstrapped it financially,
Mm-hmm.
and to purchase some products in China and put them on an ocean vessel and have them voyage to North America and then transported multimodally to your client and wait to be paid. There's this 90 days, 120 days where
Without COVID, yes.
without COVID, that's right. And so the courage of believing that you had made all the right choices, and ultimately this was going to be a win-win situation. Um, but I regret none of it. I mean, I certainly had some scary times and some times that I thought, oh, why didn't I just play it smaller, safer?
Mm-hmm.
But again, it was all this evolutionary journey of figuring out who I really was,
Mm-hmm.
and what I was capable of, if I chose to, and that validation constantly because of lift and climb, that choosing the right people around me, and always being grateful and reciprocating was the formula.
Yes, and I think that it is the the reciprocal part is very brave in my mind, because you have to have the confidence that you reciprocating and helping others was not going to really, you had to really believe that a rising tide floats all boats, and I think when you're inexperienced, or at least when I was an inexperienced entrepreneur, I really kind of held a lot of my decisions and ideas close to the vest, because I was afraid that
Right.
someone would find them out, and that was like all I would have, and then it would be gone. And of course, now, as an entrepreneur, I feel completely differently. I feel like the more I can help others, the more help will come to me. It,
Yeah, and I understand totally where that comes from for all of us, and I've had my journey on that as well, because that's the handbook we were given. That you got to, keep your stuff close to the chest and don't trust anybody too much, and that it's a dog eat dog
yes,
competitive world, and of course that more masculine or patriarchal model of business we're starting to see isn't the only model, and it's,
right,
in my opinion, not the best model. So I get that, and thought at times that perhaps it was the fact that I grew up in a farming environment, that maybe I was open already more to the idea of collaboration and lifting as you climb, because that's sort of a normal way of
right.
living there, that farmers help each other.
Hmm.
They pull resources to raise buildings and to bring in crops, and if one of them is incapacitated or ill, the others all come over and do the chores and
Right.
help out. And so the trading of services, like my father had uh, farm equipment which he would help other farmers bring in their crops, so they didn't
Mhm.
also have to buy the same equipment.
Yes.
So I do believe that some of my method of operation is rooted in what I saw as a child with farming people. And
Yeah.
also, I grew up in very, my father was one of 10 children. My mother was one of 8 children. And so I'm used to people, sharing and,
Being around and, yeah, being part of it, but everybody's part of it. Yeah. I think that's
right.
a wonderful legacy to have. It took me a very long time to learn that. I don't know if I'm a slow learner, but it just did.
Well, and I think too, because I came from a very vulnerable place
Mm,
as that teen parent, that I had a choice. I could ask for help and trust, or I could stay where I was longer.
yeah.
And so, that was part of, okay, let's try that. Yeah, that seems to be working. Let's try that some more, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So one of the things you mentioned earlier was, going into situations that perhaps you weren't entirely ready for, and, making that stretch. And I think that I'm not ready holds a lot of people back. They think that they have to be perfect, or they have to know everything before they can move forward. And in fact, what they really need to do is be comfortable that it's figure outable, you know?
I love that term, figure outable. Absolutely. I had a recent conversation I'm in a mastermind group, and we have conversations, and one of them was about not trying to figure out permanent solutions for impermanent problems.
Interesting.
Yes, absolutely. I think, okay, so as because yeah, I want to get the prize. I do. I strive for that. Uh, but being ready to say that's good enough for
Mhm.
now, and knowing that everything always requires tweaking. I mean, they're not permanent. solutions. So stop trying to make the permanent before. And another conversation that came up this morning in a group that I'm in is perfection versus excellence. So to think about that if you if you're hung up on being a perfectionist or having it just perfect, then you're really holding yourself back.
Mhm.
But if you commit to, this is as excellent as I can do at this moment,
At the moment, yes.
yeah, and knowing that everything, we are always continuing to refine it and improve it and ratchet it up based on the inputs and how we are growing as individuals. And as an entrepreneur, what your customer needs
Mhm.
are, because they're evolving as well.
Sure.
Yeah, but it is an entrepreneur's nemesis is the word perfection.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
And I have told myself many times I'm not ready because it wasn't perfect. When I started doing these interviews, my camera was terrible. My approach was terrible. Well, I look back on it now and it was terrible. And it's incrementally gotten better over the months that I've been doing this. And I'm very glad I didn't listen to the I'm not ready. And I just said, I've got to get these stories out there. People can learn from them. So,
You see, I'm so glad that you made that decision, because by withholding it, you might have withheld the help someone needed from the inspiration from what you're doing. So it isn't all about you, right?
I
It's
know.
right. Like, what do you mean it's not all about me?
It's about service. And the more I think about it as service, the more I like it.
Yes.
The first interview I did was with a friend of mine, Donna Dunn. And the interview helped her get ideas together in her head. She had been wanting to write a book. And then when she started saying these things out loud, she's like, it's falling into place, and now she's finished her book. So I know. Yeah. Very, very proud of her for that. So I made a note here um, about who I was then, who am I now, and that phrase really struck me. I'm trying to remember exactly what I was thinking when I wrote it down, but um, I think it takes some courage to say I am here and I want to be there, and take the steps. I mean, your transformation from Burke's assistant customer service person to owner of a global chemical company. I mean, you must have said at some point, oh, I want that.
I honestly didn't. There was no moment that I said that's where I'm going.
Uh-huh.
I can't pretend that I'm that purposeful in my life. I am very open to adventure and experience, because I love the exhilaration of learning.
I do too.
And so that part, where I think really I had to get to be almost a complete mess. Like I really felt I fell apart in my late 50s, even after all of that and all of the accolades and awards, etc. I woke up one day and went, "Who am I?" Like I have was so I was so immersed in that identity that I had for 25 years
Mhm.
and the business card that told me who I was, that when I wasn't doing that anymore, I was in that space between this bar of the trapeze and that one way over there. And so that was a courage challenging time, because I didn't want to let go of the identity that I was very comfortable in,
Sure.
that skin. Yet I'd outgrown it, and it was no longer serving me.
Mhm.
But there was that period where I had to go through the dark corridor, not knowing what I was going to look like coming out the other side.
Mhm.
And it's it was hard. It was really hard because I didn't know if anybody would like me, if they would value me.
Right.
I was ridiculously, now in hindsight, so convinced that people liked me for who that was,
Right.
that how would I know if I presented another version of me, um, what would that be like? And
Mm-hmm.
so that's been the adventure for me in the last, 6 years or so, is realizing, first of all, that I don't know who I am,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't like this not knowing at all. So I got to figure out how to get to who I'm going to become, who I wish to become, and how to get there, which is the system that I've created, the yes system, your encore system. So the other big revelation for me, this was the exciting one, was that I was not alone, that
Yes.
there are millions of us as baby boomers, as female baby boomers, who have evolved through a multitude of roles and identities in our lives. We were the daughter, the student, the employee, the girlfriend, the spouse, the business owner, the parent, the teacher, etc., etc. And then you get to a stage where you now can choose who you want to be next. But nobody gave us, as I say, the manual for that.
A womanual.
No, no, there was no
Right.
instruction,
What
right?
do women do beyond their usefulness as an employee and a mom? And yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. So I'm launching a podcast next week.
Oh, good.
Always face the fear, do it anyway, right?
Yes.
Um,
Courage rises.
because in the episode that I recorded yesterday, because they have you get a couple in the hopper before they push you out to Apple.
Before you launch. Yep.
My episode yesterday was, what's your expiry date?
Interesting to
Because,
think about.
yeah, because I got that sort of feeling that societally, our generation, we're kind of programmed that you get to that 65 and you have no use in society anymore, right? Get out of the workforce, make room for the others. Our kids have got their own adult lives and they've moved on.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you really love crocheting or golfing every day, there's kind of like you're a has-been. And I took a look at that and went, no.
I did the same thing.
See?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I decided I'd rather wear out than rust out.
absolutely. So this is why I love what you're doing, Susan, because the more that we can talk about this and bring it out into the mainstream conversation, when people read my book, women read my book, invariably the first statement is, I thought it was just me.
Mm-hmm.
And when we start to come out from behind our image, our screen, and say, oh my gosh, I went through that same thing. It was horrible. And I felt so embarrassed and didn't want to tell anybody else about it. So I was pretending everything was fine. And so our bodies are morphing and doing all kinds of stuff to us, and our relationships often are morphing and
Yeah.
changing. Our
Mm-hmm.
finances,
Mm-hmm.
good or bad or ugly, our communities are changing because we're losing friends for sad reasons, but they're also more mobility now.
Mm-hmm.
People stop when they're working together and they've retired or been retired. Often that means transplanting them someplace.
Mm-hmm.
And so every single moving, everything in my life was moving, all my
Yes.
relationships.
Yes.
And it felt horribly frightening. But if I had known that most of the people that I know were going through some version and some intensity of that, I would have been able to talk about it sooner and get through that evolution less miserably. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And, even when you said it out loud and you said, I'm not alone, I got that thrill of, oh, I'm not alone. And, I look back and I think my mom was a registered nurse and she retired fairly young. I think she was 55. Nursing wasn't really serving her anymore.
Right.
If she had been immersed in the kinds of things that you and I are immersed in, learning, being the person that brings you joy again, discovering somebody and something new, and
Yeah.
that somebody being yourself. I think she would have been much happier in her retirement. And I think you're right. I think there just are tons of people out there thinking, I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. The classic period of contributing to society is over, but I'm really not done.
Mm-mm. No.
And now I feel, especially being over 60, you have that self-confidence. And some people may not feel that they're really courageously self-confident, but you know yourself better.
Mhm.
And the looking for what makes you happy, what brings you joy, how you can serve, it can be a really fulfilling exercise.
Yeah. That's a foundational part of the program that I coach. It's that understanding of the lifetime value of
Mm.
ourselves,
Mhm.
because I think we've been brainwashed into thinking that our value has diminished as our estrogen level has and our collagen level has. Uh,
Collagen. I love that.
well, yeah. Yeah. And so there's like when I take people through this process of taking stock of who they are and the value that they have in their own personal currency, it's like hallelujah, it's yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, whereas instead for quite a number of years we were convinced that we should you know slow down, sit down, shut up kind of thing,
Mhm.
because we are draining the national resources or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, no, shutting up is not one of my my strong suits.
I knew I liked you instantly when I met you. Okay. We're not called evolutionary women for nothing.
There you go. There you go. Well, I count myself so lucky that, as a process of doing this, that I am meeting so many interesting, courageous, service-oriented people. It's like, let's get out there and raise each other up. Oh,
Yes.
I
I
love
am
that.
so happy to hear you say that. Yeah. We should, this movement should go around the globe many times, and
Yes.
just that, that impact that we will have, just by first of all standing in our own place as women, our 60s and 70s and beyond,
Mm,
having economic autonomy, contributing to other people's
mm,
economic independence, and
mhm.
showing how to have fun, live life, that it doesn't end till you say, not, this has nothing to do with the fat lady. This is all about, like, it's writing a new script.
Mhm. Writing your own. Yeah.
You're absolutely.
Mm,
This is no longer, you don't have to now do what somebody else expected you to do, or circumstances forced you to do, or it just was too convenient and a little hard to leave what you didn't really love, but gosh, you've invested decades of your life in that, whether that's a job, a business, or a relationship.
mhm.
And now going, okay, you know what? It's not over, because with my health condition and the general state of nutrition and medical care today, hmm,
Got a
I
lot of
got it.
years to go. Yeah.
Absolutely. I got at least 20.
Yeah.
Might be 30, might be 40. Well, today, it's not uncommon for people to live over 100, and there's a whole thing around that.
Mhm.
So why wouldn't you choose to live that joyously and leaving, creating an impact, leaving an impact in the
Yeah.
world?
Well, I'm very honored to be part of your Lift as You Climb movement. I very much believe in that. And I wish that I had known 20 years ago what I know now.
Yeah.
What I've just really discovered in the last few years. I think that I'm in awe of the people who do figure that out a lot earlier in life, but I'm glad that I've found it now, and that I'm moving ahead, however imperfectly.
It is absolutely perfect for where we are right now, and we get to continually reinvent that, right? And
Mhm.
transform it. How lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you. This has just been so joyful for me to talk about this and recognize that there is a groundswell happening.
Mhm.
I have the power to grant wishes, starting with my own.
Starting with my own. Yeah, I love that. Is there anything that you would say to women in general about increasing their courage quotient, moving their needle on the continuum?
Yes, the thing that's vital for me is another C, and that's sorry, it's not, it's a G. I don't even know it was a Canadian letter,
There you go.
and that's vitamin G, which is for girlfriend, and that's being very conscious of the company you keep, uh, choosing and cultivating those relationships that make you want to be a better person, that make you aspire to your own greatness, that hold you accountable for your nonsense when it happens, and it always will,
It
because
always will.
we're
Mhm.
human beings, right? And so that's my best advice to any woman of any age is be very conscious and curate and cultivate and nurture those relationships.
That's great. I love the idea of curating your vitamin G. Oh, thanks, Isabel. This has just been such a joy. We've only known each other a short time, and every single time we get together, it makes me so happy.
Me too. Absolutely. I am so grateful for the introduction. And
That's
let's
right.
see.
It came from Karen Cantrell, didn't it?
No, Karen Cantrell,
Yeah.
another one of my vitamin G tribe, and the woman who deserves full credit for the success of my book, because she was my writing coach and my editor and my publisher, and my kick in the pants when I said I'm going to do this,
Yeah.
and she
Yeah.
kept me on target, and we got it done, and I'm very proud of that friendship, and that there are more women like her, like you, and we're reaching out to each other and busting up those old paradigms about being competitive or being bitchy
Yeah.
or whatever. Another friend of mine reminds me that opportunities for women is not like pie. There's not only so many slices to go around,
Mhm.
there's unlimited pie for
I,
us
I
as
love
women.
I love pie. So
Yep.
that's fantastic. Well,
All right.
I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for being on Courage Rises. This has been a delight, and I know we're going to see more of each other and figure out how we can work together more in the future. Oh, I know your podcast is coming out. Do you want to tell people about the summit as well, very quickly?
Yes. So tomorrow, February the 25th,
Oh, yeah. This will
2021.
this will probably come out after that, but
Right.
still.
Okay, so, but it will be available. So this is the first, shall I just say, tomorrow we're launching the first Global Serial Entrepreneurs Summit. And it is a wonderful curation of feminine wisdom. There's 33 very diverse female speakers who are diverse in age and country of residence and business type and culture, etc. With a combined, my best estimate, well over 1,000 years of feminine business wisdom. And it's the intent, the purpose of the summit is to create that content, curate that content for any woman, particularly I think the audience is women 50 plus who are thinking of starting a business, considering starting another business, an additional business, um, how to scale their business, how to sell their business, or sometimes you just need to break up with your business.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, we speak very candidly about that, and that content is available. And I believe that it will become a series, and it will all be about feminine wisdom and also really just badass, smart business wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Good. Very good.
And if I could suggest that if anyone wants to, sort of follow along and see when the next summit is coming out,
Yes.
or offer to share their wisdom as a speaker at one of the
Yes.
summits, just join our Facebook community. It's the Lift as You Climb movement on Facebook, and that's where you're definitely going to meet a lot of other lifters and have a really great time, make some new friends, and just expand your vision for what's possible
Yeah.
yet in your life.
Take the next right, courageous step.
Yes.
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 Good. Thanks, Isabel. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you, Susan.
This has been Courage Rises with Susan Jeffries. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that you recognized yourself in some of the courageous actions and thoughts of my guest. If you want to get notified of new episodes, please go to YouTube to the Courage Rises channel, like this episode, and subscribe to my channel. Never forget that courage can be learned through practice and shifting your mindset. If you have a story of courage to tell, or you're immersed in this subject matter, or if you'd like to learn more about moving the needle on your own courage continuum, you can email me at susan@couragerises.life. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.